Enes Kanter is an NBA player. He's played for a number of different teams, and he's very outspoken. He's Turkish, and he just now became an American citizen, and he talks a lot about political issues. One of the things he's brought up a number of times is this idea that, look, China is repressive, they're authoritarian, what they do is not okay, and you have somebody like LeBron James, who's obviously the most famous player in basketball currently, and he sort of genuflects at the altar of China because they have business deals together and he has no criticism for them. All the while he talks about, Black Lives Matter and social issues and gets political here. And he sees, there's a contradiction there, and he sees an issue there. He sees a massive blind spot, and so he calls that out. Now, as time has gone by, his criticism has gotten sharper, but then his criticism has also started to go overreach at times. And now, last time I saw, he's shooting his guns in every which direction at foreign governments that he considers dictatorial and he considers tyrannical. Well, he just became an American citizen. He celebrated that by going on Tucker Carlson. And man, did he say something here that caught my eye. Take a look.
How have your teammates responded? Do you think they're as grateful to be Americans as you are?
My teammates actually, were really happy for me because they knew the struggle that I had the last, 6 years. It was a funny joke in the beginning because they were calling me Mr. Freedom, and now it became a reality. But I think my teammates were like the one that was my brothers. It was just so amazing because their support gave me so much hope and motivation to fight for what's right. So I definitely give a lot of credit to my teammates.
It seems like people who move here from countries that are not free appreciate the freedoms here much more than a lot of us who grew up with those freedoms. Have you noticed that?
I feel like I'm going to just say this, and I'm going to be honest. People should feel really blessed and lucky to be in being America, because, they love to criticize it. But when you live a country like Turkey or China or somewhere else, you will appreciate the freedoms you have here.
Yes, that is exactly.
So I feel like they should just, they should just keep their mouth shut and stop criticizing the greatest nation in the world, and they should focus on, their freedoms and their human rights and their democracy. So America gave me everything I have. So I definitely appreciate the United States of America.
That's how I feel. We're putting up.
That's how I feel. Thank you, Tucker, for your deep insight. By the way, Tucker, of course, was a supporter of Donald Trump, whose slogan was, "Make America Great Again." As in, it ain't great right now. We have way too many problems. As Trump used to talk, the country's falling apart, it's terrible, we got to fix this. Tucker supported it when Trump says it, but when anybody nominally on the left says it, he's like, whoa, 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 you don't hate America? Love it or leave it. Love it or leave it. Massive hypocrisy, complete contradiction. And this, look, this stuff is stupid. This is low IQ nonsense. So let me break this down for you in a number of different ways. Do I have a problem with Enes Kanter calling out repressive foreign governments, tyranny, dictatorial actions? I don't. Now, I'm sure there are instances where he would, point his cannons at a foreign government and say, well, this thing they're doing is tyrannical. And maybe I'd look at it and say, no, I don't think you're actually right about that. I think maybe that's an unfair criticism. But look, some of his criticisms are totally fair. I have no love for Erdogan. I have no love. That's the leader of Turkey. He is, theocratic, authoritarian in many respects. I have no love for the Chinese government. And I don't like it when lefties fall into this trap of, because China describes themselves as a communist regime, they're nominally leftist. Therefore, their stance is against American imperialism, so now there's just a good guy, bad guy dynamic. So like China good, America bad. I think that's black and white thinking. I think it's silly. That's not to say that every criticism of China is legit, but there are plenty of criticisms of China that are legit. So I have no problem with him criticizing other governments. That's totally fine. What I do have a massive problem with is what he just said right there, which is honestly flat out propaganda. Rah, America propaganda. Be quiet about this country and just appreciate the freedom. Be quiet about this country. So the principle that you use when evaluating other countries is be skeptical, evaluate the actions objectively, and say what you think is wrong and how to fix it. But this country somehow off limits. Just appreciate the human rights and the freedoms that you have here. Well, what about the areas where we fall short? And we don't have the human rights we deserve, and we don't have the freedom we deserve. Shut up and don't criticize this country? Who are you kidding? Okay, let me just give one example. Freedom. He literally changed his name to Enes Kanter Freedom. Hey, Enes Kanter, is it freedom if somebody in this country chooses to, I don't want to hurt anybody else, I'm going to put a substance in my own body because I choose to. And then they get caught doing that, and then they get thrown in a cage for years. Is that freedom? Is that what freedom is? We're going to lock you in a cage and throw away the key. You're going to be locked up for years because you decided to either sell a substance that somebody voluntarily wanted to put in their body, or you put a substance in your body. This is the drug war. This is the tough on crime nonsense. They didn't hurt anybody. I would argue that is right smack dab square in the middle of what freedom is. Putting in your body whatever you want to put in your body as long as you're not hurting anybody else. So, and by the way, this country, we lock up way more people than in any other country. How is that not authoritarian? Is that not authoritarian? I'm asking you. I think it is authoritarian. You know what else is authoritarian? Guantanamo Bay, which is still open. We illegally and unconstitutionally locked up people with no evidence, no trial, no due process, and said, we think you're with Al-Qaeda, so you're locked up. Now, it turns out a lot of the people we locked up were not with Al-Qaeda. And by the way, this is why you need a trial and you need due process, because you can't just trust the authorities when they say, we think this about you. Prove it. Prove it. That's the Enlightenment. That's civilization. That's the way it's supposed to work. But we didn't do it. But Enes Kanter says, shut up and don't talk about it. Don't talk about that. Don't criticize America. So what about illegal and offensive wars that attacked a country that didn't attack us and led to hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians dying? What about that? What about the fact, Enes Kanter, that it is a stone cold fact that the U.S. militarily supports 73% of the world's dictatorships? If you're so against, tyranny and dictatorships, and you hate it when people crack down on freedom, what do you have to say about Israel? What do you have to say about Saudi Arabia, which, puts you to death if you're gay? They'll behead you in the public square for witchcraft and sorcery and apostasy. Do you have anything to say about apartheid in Israel? Anything to say about that at all? Look, people need to not be ideological zombies. And so what that means is don't just do this bandwagon effect where you throw in with a group of people and say, I'm going to believe what these people believe because I like them the most, or, this is where my life experience has led me to. No, you have to evaluate issues objectively and on their own merit and take everything on a case-by-case basis. So again, I have no problem whatsoever. You want to criticize repressive regimes around the world. You want to criticize tyranny. You want to criticize, effectively indentured servitude or wage slave labor. I have no problem with that. I would immediately stop outsourcing and I try to untangle our supply chain from China because I want to reinvigorate American manufacturing. Now, somebody turn around and say, well, you're being anti-China if you do that. Bullshit. I'm being pro-American worker if I'm doing that. I have no problem with criticisms of tyranny. What I have a problem with is colossal blind spots that you're open about and you're broadcasting to the world. Now, and by the way, what I'm not arguing is everything about America is bad. Of course not. There are plenty of aspects of America that I love, and that's one of my big issues with the debate we have around education. You have the left-wing approach to education, the 1619 Project, which does have just flat-out factual inaccuracies involved in the 1619 Project, but this idea that, well, America was just founded on racism, and it is wholly racist, and that's like the end of the conversation. Then you have the right-wing approach of, downplay all the negative parts about America completely, and let's just teach this puppies and rainbows idea that America is the greatest nation in the world, and American exceptionalism is wonderful, and what's another way to describe American exceptionalism? American supremacy. So you have the bigoted outlook towards every other country in the world, and you're like, we're the best. Why? Because we're the best, because that's what we were taught. Well, that's nonsense, and that's what every other country is taught. So one of my big problems with education is there's a strident lack of objectivity in any real sense. Any education system worth a shit would teach in the United States of America slavery, Jim Crow, Native American genocide, Japanese internment, nuking of innocent civilians in Japan. But at the same time, it would also teach the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King, the Marshall Plan, the New Deal, the case law on free speech, which makes us the greatest free speech nation on the planet, so on and so forth. So all the facts matter. But what Enes Kanter is saying is, no, they don't. The only facts that matter are the ones I choose to focus on with my narrow worldview, where I say all these other governments are tyrannical and bad. The official state enemies of the U.S. are bad, and here's why. But don't criticize the United States of America. Shut up and support your human rights and your freedom here. Even in instances where we actually are not free. And we're not abiding by human rights. I mean, for the love of God, we have literally put our middle finger up to the International Criminal Court and said, we don't have to abide by your bullshit because we have a big military, so fuck off. We were sanctioning medicine going into Iran, and the International Criminal Court said, you can't do that. And then we turned around and said, okay, stop us with your army. Oh, that's right. You don't have an army, bitch. So it looks like we're going to keep sanctioning the medicine going into Iran. How does that sound to you? Does that sound like we're abiding by freedom and justice and law and order and human rights? No. So it's annoying and it's bullshit, and they're making him this right-wing hero. Why? Because he's going to criticize the official enemy baddie states. That's why. That's why. So he's posturing as this edgy outsider truth teller when really he's a moron with a colossal blind spot that he wholly embraces. I have no interest in it.